Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast. The Senator Phil Perry alongside day one of the 3-day, make that 2-day minicamp here at Gillette Stadium. Patriots will not practice on Wednesday. At least we're not going to take part in watching it. Mike Vrabel assured us before practice today, be around on this Wednesday, but we'll get the first two practices of the minicamp. And today, Mike said it's just an extension of OTAs, so there was no full pads and ramming into each other like back in the day. Phil says I'm out of my mind. That never happened. I'll have to do some research. I might be going uphill both ways to work.
I'm just since I started covering the team. A minicamp is a passing camp.
Whatever I say is going to be wrong.
Well, that's true.
As far as Phil's concerned.
We've established that.
Big day for Drake Maye leadership talk. We talked to Drake Maye, we talked to Milton Williams, Harold Landry, and some other luminaries. But let's stick with the Drake Maye leadership because that's huge going into season 2. Here's Mike Vrabel on whether or not Drake Maye can be a dink when necessary.
Yeah, this is pro football. I don't think everybody's going to like you. I don't think that that's something that is possible. And we have to do our job. We have to make sure that we're prepared. And that ultimately the players can hold each other accountable to play to our standard and play to our identity and know what to do and perform.
Phil Perry really beating the hell out of this angle, asking Drake Maye, Drake, can you be a dink if necessary?
I think that's something that I think is needed. I think Coach Vrabel's kind of set that tone when he came in here and got hired of, hey, if you're not doing the right thing repeated times, there's going to be some consequences. And I think that's something we need to establish. And I think it's something that, me growing up with 3 older brothers and around older people my whole life, I've kind of been comfortable. And kind of once I got acclimated, which I feel like I definitely am now, to kind of step into that zone. And, hey, I think especially for offensively, if somebody's not doing their job, and it starts with me, I got to do mine first. But if somebody's not doing their job and repeated mistakes, I think there got to be a consequence.
And before I give it to my inquisitive pal, it is interesting to hear Mike Vrabel stressing that he's going to put high expectations on his best players. The accountability that he wants, I think, from guys like Maye or Williams or Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, his best players, he wants to be the most accountable. So he will ride herd, I think, on a guy like Drake Maye and say, look, it's a standard, and he's not going to tiptoe around that.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting when he was initially asked about Drake Maye and his leadership qualities by Karen Gregan. He brought up, the first thing almost out of his mouth was he's 22 years old. He's about to be 23, but indicating he's a kid. And he is still very young, and he's got a lot to learn. He's got a lot of room to grow. And those are all good things, but I think you want to make sure that you're not too deferential if you're Drake Maye. He's the youngest of 4 boys. My guess is, even though he probably had to fight to hold his own at times, there, Tom, he also probably had a lot of loud voices around him at all times. And so there wasn't a lot of need for him to speak up and organize the group to any degree, whereas that's going to be part of his job out here now. And to hear him talk about, how he can get after guys, that to me is a far cry from where he was around this time last year, where he was just trying to take it all in, and he was letting Jacoby Brissett be the guy to get after other people if the need arose.
It's very clear, too, that in a way that they did not do last year, which you can do it one of 2 ways. The Patriots opted to kind of treat him as an apprentice early on. But this year they're foisting it on him. You're the leader. You're in charge. And showing him his expectations and telling everybody, not in as many words, but ask him. Look at him. He's the guy in charge on the field.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that these last 2 practices we've been out here for. Day one of minicamp and the last OTA session we were here for, they finished practice with these conditioning runs where Drake Maye has to call out and use a certain type of cadence and change up his cadences, the snap count. And I think that drill in and of itself, even though it's conditioning for everybody, it's a drill where you're supposed to focus on the call so that you're not jumping off sides, and Vrabel's paying attention to all that stuff. Vrabel's also purposefully, intentionally putting Maye in that situation where he has to be the voice for the rest of the team, and it's 90 guys out here. And I think he's trying to, maybe, my guess is, Tom, he's trying to draw a little bit more out of him in that regard in terms of being that voice that everybody listens to and understands he's the guy in charge.
And the interesting thing about that I kind of gleaned as they were doing it today is if a guy jumps off sides, that means 2 more extra sprints. So Maye is in that interesting spot between coaching staff and player. Coaching staff wants him to make it hard, so he has to do that, but he doesn't want to make it so hard that it's hot, yeah, got ya. So you have to toe that line. So it's an interesting thing to watch. We also talked to Maye about expectations. We've talked about it a number of times on our shows. It's an improved coaching staff and it's an improved roster. It's a second-year player coming back who has a lot of national attention on how much he should improve. Here's what Maye had to say when I asked him about the expectations being leveled up.
I think you want high expectations. I think that's what you want. I think this city, the Patriots are used to winning, and that's what we're trying to get back to. I think you want people to expect you to play good, and I think that pressure is kind of what fuels you to be out here. What fuels you to get the rep right in practice. What fuels you to work hard in the meetings or work hard in the weight room, or kind of not what happened last year happen again.
And one more before we react to that. Here's Drake Maye when he was asked by Mike Giardi about that spate of picks during the first OTA that we paid attention to. Well, we pay attention to all the OTAs we're at the first OTA we attended. Here's Drake Maye talking about those picks and what the hell happened out there.
There's a balance between trying things out and turning the football over. I think going back to that day at deep one, Gonzo fell off. We had I'm not getting into football, but Gonzo fell off. Gonzo made a good play. The other one, they bring cover zero and just got to have cover zero answers in this league. So I had to learn with that one. I don't remember. I think Hunter got held on one. So take that stuff with a grain of salt. But at the same time, you don't want to turn the football over, so getting in bad habits. So I feel like I've done a good job of trying to keep the football in our hands, and that's one of our key focuses.
Do you think he knows what he's in for?
It's a good question. I think he probably has figured it out to a significant degree, Tom, because last year was about as toxic as I've seen it, as somebody who covers the team, in terms of the overall media experience and the relationship between the media and the team itself, meaning not just those people like us that are here all the time and that cover these guys and actually talk to these guys in person, but radio, television, other places, national media. I mean, they were really skewered on the regular last year. And so I think Drake Maye understands where he lives and how this fan base really approaches its sports teams and the Patriots in particular and what they're used to. And so I think he probably does know. And he probably knows, Tom, that even if the reason they went 4-13 last year wasn't because of him, his play would suggest that their record should have been better than it was. He understands if he doesn't win more than one game, obviously one game, if he doesn't win more than 4 games, more than 5, more than 6, he's going to get killed in the media. And I think that is something that he probably brings to work with him every day, understanding there's just an inherent pressure that comes with all that.
It's really interesting to see the way they're going to react to this, the way they're moving forward in it, because nobody understands it better than Vrabel, having, worked here as a player, then been at Ohio State, then been at Tennessee as a head coach, been in Houston. He's seen a lot of different places. He could speak to Maye about this is what's going to happen when things go sideways. These are the things I would suggest. I worked with Drew Bledsoe. I worked with Tom Brady. Both of those guys were as good as it gets oftentimes when messaging with the media. Let's get into the practice itself. A lot of red zone install. What did you glean from some of that?
I just thought overall, Tom, the offensive practice was very crisp. I had Drake Maye in that top group completing 12 of the 16 attempts that they took in competitive periods of practice. So about half of those were in the middle of the field, about half of those were in the red zone. And different people, different places are going to have different numbers. I had 12 for 16 in part because there were a handful of sacks. A couple of them were unblocked. So maybe that would be the one, if there was one demerit for the offense today, it was, all right, you'd rather not have the free runner situation. Remember, this was a situation with Mac Jones in 2022. Yep. Free runners. We were hearing about it all the time, and it was a sign that they hadn't figured things out up front yet in terms of the protection. So we did see a couple of those. One on a game from Keon White, just waltzed right in and would have sacked Drake Maye. Another, a blitz from Jabril Peppers, just nobody ever picked it up. But otherwise, I thought Drake Maye was in rhythm and on time and pretty accurate with the football. So I thought it was a good day for them and a very far cry from that first OTA that we watched when he threw 4 picks. Yeah,
I agree with that. And the interesting thing, too, is, to watch the wide receiver group, look, we rightfully spent a ton of time focusing on its limitations. But as guys start to find positions of comfort in a Josh McDaniels offense. And again, Diggs wasn't out there all the time, but there's not a lot of this after the play where people are pointing and saying hands up to the sky, why weren't you there? Kendrick Bourne had a good day, I thought. I said that to you or to Mike Reese as we were sitting there. Thought he had a good day as he came back this week from not being there last week. Efton Chisholm, I'm just going to mention a drill because it was an interesting drill to watch the speed and the foot speed of different players. They were releasing off the line in the red zone. They were working down to the linebacker level, cutting outside as if that was the end of the route. Then they were putting their foot in the ground and working back to the sideline. And Efton Chisholm, we could show you the video if you want, and I'm sure you want to. You're a Patriots fan. You like to see this stuff. Why do they keep talking about Efton Chisholm? Watch this kid's footwork if we can throw that video up too on the YouTube. He plants, there is no wasted motion, and he's out of it. He is so friggin' quick. It's unmistakable why he's starting to see more time a little bit higher with the ones. And again, the Kendrick Bourne thing mentioned that.
Yeah. So Bourne was not at the last OTA, the open OTA that we were here for, and I think that allowed Chisholm to get more snaps with the top group. So you saw fewer of those today, I thought, in competitive periods, although he was with Drake Maye quite a bit in some of the what looked like almost install or 50% sorts of periods, Tom 11 on 11. And he is, and I tweeted the video too, and it's amazing how many people are just interested by what he can do. And part of it is he's performed well, so we watch the practices and we talk about him, and now he's become almost this like folk hero-y type of figure. But he does have a particular set of skills that to me can be really useful, especially in this offense with Josh McDaniels when it comes to changing direction, creating separation for yourself. He's not going to be the straight line fast. He's not Vlad McConkey, right, who ran like I think a 4.29 or a 4.31 or something absurd coming out of Georgia a couple of years ago. But boy, he can put his foot in the ground and change direction. I think he does it better than some other guys that, even somebody like Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams is certainly faster in a straight line. He caught a great deep ball from Josh Dobbs, a nice big post play for a touchdown early in the practice today. But when it comes to that tight area, short area work, when you have to change direction or decelerate and then accelerate again, to me, Chisholm is already, pretty advanced in that regard. Doesn't mean he's definitely making the team or anything like that, but this is why he's played well in the practices we've been out here.
Don't take our word for it. Here's Drake Maye talking about the 3 rookies added in the skill positions. Travion Henderson, running back out of Ohio State, who also had a nice little touchdown in the red zone. Kyle Williams and Efton Chisholm.
They're making plays, all day, so we got to find a way to get them involved. Looking forward to seeing kind of how they kind of shape their role in training camp, and I think they're shaping it out here. I think you saw plays from everybody. Travion caught a touchdown. Kyle caught a deep ball. Chiz caught had some about 50 catches, I feel like, in OTAs. So these guys are just showing to work and showing up, and I've been through with the rookie. They're here in some rookie meetings till 5 o'clock, some NFLPA meetings. So they got a lot on their plate, and I think they're responding well.
We also heard from Big Milton Williams today, and Phil, you were in on him. You said it was interesting to hear him say he really wants to get to training camp.
Yeah, I think even though it feels to me, you tell me if I'm wrong, it feels to me like this time of year, no pads, everything's a pass play. It almost benefits the defensive lineman more than the offensive lineman because you can just pin your ears back and use your speed. But the way Williams was describing it was, he just can't wait for training camp because he wants to put the pads on. They're not allowed to bull rush. They're not allowed to get after the quarterback. They're not allowed to put their hands up and bat down a pass that might be near the line of scrimmage. So he's like, just get me to training camp, please. Can we do that? I think, though, Tom, they still had some pretty nice moments out here, the defensive line group, just in terms of breaking into the backfield and creating disruption, even though they're limited in the kinds of things they can do.
Yeah, it's funny because, you look at that group just on paper, and you can easily, as a layperson, say, wow, they're pretty stocked. What do the players themselves think? Here's Harold Landry, who I think might surprise people this year with his ability. Here's Harold Landry on the skill up front.
We got a talented group up front, I'll tell you that. That's another reason why I'm excited for this season, just all the way up and down. Our front seven, really. I just feel super excited. Man, really the whole defense, to be honest. This is an exciting group to be around, and I'm excited going into this season because you just look at it and you feel the excitement of the production that you can have going out there, knowing that everybody out there has that playmaking ability.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Harold Landry. We'll talk more about the defense, no doubt, during training camp, because I guarantee you in the first 3 days of training camp, they're going to eat the lunch of the Patriots offense on a fairly regular basis once they get through the foreplay of OTAs and down to the nitty-gritty. That was a nice, tight pod, I think, Phil. Both of us are running on empty and low blood sugar because of the timing. It's approaching 3:15, no lunch for either guy yet. So before we start to get rancorous, let's get ourselves out of here.